Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to the Packernet Podcast. I am your host and resident panelist, as always, Ryan Schlipp. Check us out online, packernet.com. Find me on Twitter, pack_data. Well, my continued campaign, my continued dreams of a Luke Musgrave breakout season continue to just freaking devolve. It's the same with Christian Watson. It's like, everybody's just tired of hearing me say, like, oh, shut up, it's over, he sucks. It's like, he just can't get on the field, he can't be healthy, it just doesn't, I just can't get my way, you know what I mean? Like, I just can't get it, I just can't, man. Apparently, Luke Musgrave has an ankle injury. Okay. And the Packers said, yeah, it turns out it's pretty serious, and more than likely he's going on IR. Now, the good news is, he said more than likely, which means I'm thinking, Lincoln, like, 4 weeks is around, probably going to be more than 4 weeks, so we put him on, but not season ending or anything, I wouldn't think. I don't know. Who knows? Next thing you're going to hear is he needs surgery or something stupid, but Luke Musgrave goes on IR. I mean, the good news is the offense seems to be humming and he's had almost no impact. I mean, right now this team is asking the tight ends to do a lot of blocking and to take some shorter passes and just smash the crap out of people. And although Musgrave, I'm sure, could, handle a DB here and there, it just doesn't seem to be his style of football. Again, I think that should change. But whatever, this offense can hum along just fine without Musgrave for now. Not giving up hope on my dream, though, man. It's just you just got to stay strong at times like this. You know what I mean? I have a dream. I dream of a day when Tucker Kraft and Luke Musgrave are. I don't want to make the comparison to the other team that had really good players because one of them murdered a lot of people. But there's a world in which we have two tight ends that just terrorize people. And that's not even to speak of the quarterback and the receivers and the running back and all that. It's not even about that. It's just these tight ends, even if we didn't have any receivers, you're dead. It's over. And I believe that one day that dream will come. I really shouldn't be greedy, though. In my opinion, the Packers have not had like a dominant tight end basically in my lifetime. I mean, I've mentioned many times that I think Jermichael Finley was unbelievably overrated. And honestly, I mean, maybe this is just one of those, things where just people swear they remember something that isn't true. I forgot what that's called. But at the time, nobody thought Jermichael Finley was an elite tight end. It was always, this is going to be the year. This is the year he's really going to break out. And it just never really happened. Was he good? Yeah, he's good. He's fine. Was he like a dominant tight end? Like one of the best in football? No, he wasn't. Maybe for like a year or something. I don't know. Is that guy going to go in the Hall of Fame? No. Maybe Chimura? Maybe. I don't really remember. I know I liked Chimura just like I liked everybody, but I was kind of not paying close enough attention as a child to know like how he stacked up in the NFL. Maybe you can have that. And Bubba Franks was one of my... Bubba Franks, to me, is kind of like Eddie Lacy. He's good. He was a great end zone guy. You get down inside the 10-yard line, you're thinking Bubba. He's got a great name. Everything about it was great. Love Bubba Franks. But again, is this like a Hall of Fame guy? No, it's more of a novelty thing. Eddie Lacy was good. You know what I mean? Eddie Lacy was a guy that you loved the guy, you loved his style, you loved just everything about him is just awesome. But it's just among Packer fans. But I mean, what do you have to do? Go back to Ron Kramer in the 60s? Maybe Paul Kaufman? I mean, he apparently ended his career, at least with the Packers, in 85. I was born in 86. So, yeah, I don't... Point is, the Packers have not been a haven of elite tight ends. And I'm not putting Kraft in that category already, but dude was a third-round pick, which is an auto bust. And he's a really good tight end. Bottom line, I just shouldn't be greedy. You know what I mean? Just be happy with what you got. So there's that. All right, so here's the deal for today. I've been given an ultimatum by the wife that I've been spending enough time on the podcast and I need to do some family time. Basically, I need to go upstairs and watch The Voice. Also, I'm grilling. I got some pork belly. You know what I snuck on there too? My son loved me and my son just obsessed with pork belly, but we haven't done it in a while, so I told him we'd do it. But I snuck a couple things in there. I really wanted to find beef cheeks, and I couldn't find it, so I typed in cheeks. They had pork cheeks. I don't know how that's going to go, but I just stuck them on the smoker along with the pork belly, and we're going to see how that goes. I'll keep you posted. Let me know if you've done that before. Anyways, the plan for today, we got to rip through the Arizona Cardinals because it's getting to be about that time. We can briefly talk about Thursday Night Football, which I can do right now. Go Seahawks. Done. End of conversation. Excuse me. If they fall to 2-4, oh my Lord. Even acknowledging when their running back comes back and guys get held, blah, blah, blah. I haven't even looked into the 49ers. I hope even if eventually they're going to figure it out, the 49ers at 2-4 would bring me so much joy. You know, it'd just be one of those obnoxious, even if you know they're very likely to go to the playoffs and then do some damage in there. I just want to find 49ers fan. We might even do a laughing at the enemy. That's my promise to you. If the 49ers lose, we're going to do a laughing at the enemy segment of the 49ers because I hate that team. We don't spend enough time hating on that team and laughing at that team for all the freaking damage they've done to us, the trauma that they've caused to us. Not that Seattle's been great either, but some of the most traumatizing moments in Packers history have been Seattle. But still, I hate the freaking 49ers. And so, yeah, if they fall to 2-4, we're gonna do some work on that. But we're gonna do Arizona because that's our opponent, and then we're gonna do some calls because I want to keep pace with that. We're not gonna do Packernet After Dark, but I don't want to fall behind, so we'll do a couple calls on that. So that's what we're gonna do. If your mind went to the office when I said that, you are a friend of mine. All right, let's talk Arizona Cardinals. 2023 Arizona Cardinals. We're a disaster. 4-13. They've been trying to kind of remind me of the 49ers in a weird way where it's like they're having some quarterback issues, and when things are working, they're really or Baltimore or something. They can be a dangerous team when things are working, but things just are never really working for them. And that's sort of the case they're in right now. Anyways, last year, Jonathan Gannon, head coach, offensive coordinator Drew Petzing, defensive coordinator Nick Rallis. They're points for and points against, they rank 24th on offense, 31st on defense. They have some serious defensive problems. They didn't win 2 games in a row all year, which isn't surprising when you only win 4 games. They were 1-8 at one point. Just an all-around terrible team. Fast forward to 2024, Jonathan Gannon, Drew Petzing, Nick Rallis, still the guys commanding the ship. One of the biggest differences, depending on when you played the Cardinals, if you played the Cardinals, is Kyler Murray. Now, Kyler did play last year. He played almost exactly half of the snaps. Josh Dobbs played just slightly less, and then Clayton Tune was in there for 33 dropbacks as well, which about a game's worth or so. This year so far, though, Kyler Murray has been the only quarterback for the team, and he is grading out better than he did last year, at least marginally. He was kind of mid to low 70s. This year, he's cracking the 80s. His overall grade is an 82. He has a 78 passing grade, 76 running grade. So that's going pretty well. But that's not the whole story. You know, it's good to have a good quarterback. It's bad to have a bad team. They are 2-3 right now. They're ranking 12th on offense, 27th on defense in terms of points. I think they scared all of us a little bit when week 1, they were very close to beating the Buffalo Bills. It was 28-34. Then they played the Rams, blew them out 41-10. And my reaction, I probably even said it on the podcast at some point, was, holy crap, watch out for the Arizona Cardinals. Well, then they played the Lions. They lost 20-13. And you think, well, Lions are a good team, relatively close game, although 13 points is not a super great out. Then they played the Washington Commanders, and this is where things seem to have taken a turn. All due respect to the Washington Commanders, they got blown out 42-14. That's a rough day at the office, folks. Not to mention, since that 41-point game, they scored 13 and then 14. Then they played the 49ers. They scored 24. Pretty mediocre at that point. They did win the game by 1. You could give them some credit, I suppose, but the 49ers are also a team that is not playing at their best. The best way to kind of reconcile this when you're looking at, yeah, you did this, but they're this good, whatever, it's called DVOA. That's what that metric is. It's adjusting for your opponent. By the way, this may surprise some people. According to DVOA right now, the Green Bay Packers offense ranks 4th. Arizona Cardinals offense ranks 13th. The Green Bay Packers defense, not as good as the offense, ranks 17th. Still better than Arizona, though, who ranks 26th. So the defense is clearly the problem, although the offense is middle of the pack as it stands right now. If you look at the teams overall, Green Bay ranks 11th, Arizona ranks 21st. So we have a situation where Green Bay is the better football team, and they're at home. It's not a bad situation to be in. Let's continue our look at the overview of the Arizona Cardinals, though. A couple of the offseason changes that they made. They did add cornerback Sean Murphy-Bunting. If you don't know these names, it's not a big deal. They really didn't do a ton of massive signings, I guess. I mean, Sean Murphy-Bunting, I guess, was kind of big. They hilariously added Justin Jones from the Chicago Bears, which, shockingly, the guy who loved talking crap about the Packers but was bad at football, the Arizona Cardinals paid him 3 years, $31 million, so over $10 million a year for that guy who was like a backup in Chicago. He just was bad. Also added Bilal Nichols, Jonah Williams. Any other notable names here? Not really. Zay Jones from the Jaguars, but he got 1 year, $1.4 million. Remember the last time he got a contract? Wasn't it a ridiculously high number by the Jaguars? That was always a terrible decision. They threw so much money around, and then they had kind of a good year, and you thought, well, maybe they knew what they were doing, and then everything fell apart, and it was like, no, you were stupid. I was right. So they made some changes, nothing really earth-shattering, and again, the guys that they spent some money on, like Justin Jones, you just can't help but laugh. Like, well, no wonder your defense sucks, dude. You spend $10 million a year on that guy? That dude, I don't even want him as a backup. Get out of here. And we have terrible defensive tackles right now. They're struggling. You couldn't pay me to put Justin Jones in our rotation. Anyways, they also went out and got Desmond Ridder in a trade as a backup quarterback. Somewhat irrelevant. Then there are the departures. They lost wide receiver Hollywood Brown. Say what you will about him. He kind of reminds me of MVS. Like, it just never quite clicked. But he's that speed threat that really spreads things out. They got Pat Elflein, center from San Francisco. Lost Pat Elflein to San Francisco. I'm still in acquisition mode. Lecky Fotu, defensive tackle, went to the Jets. I'm not sure anybody else is super relevant. A bunch of them don't even have jobs. They never really found new jobs and whatnot. And then there is the draft. And the big one is Marvin Harrison Jr. Thank goodness they went with Marvin Harrison instead of the other guy from New York, because I'm more scared of him. But Marvin Harrison, obviously he's a talented dude. You got to watch out. They also drafted Darius Robinson, Max Melton, which is going to be a really interesting storyline. Bo Melton's brother. So hopefully they get to line up against each other. It's unlikely. There is some talk about possibly lining them up in special teams. I don't know. Trey Benson, they got from Florida State, the running back, kind of similar to, I think I was more of a Benson guy. I cannot remember. I'm already purging that, but you got Trey Benson, the running back, Isaiah Adams, the guard. And then they got Tip Riemann, tight end out of Illinois, was another guy that was talked about quite a bit for the Packers. Elijah Jones, cornerback out of Boston College. It's another guy because of Boston College. It was like, oh, maybe there's a thing there. Dadrian Taylor Deverson, safety out of Texas Tech. Xavier Thomas, linebacker out of Clemson. Christian Jones, tackle out of Texas. Tawan Palmer, wide receiver out of UAB. And then Jaden Davis, cornerback out of Miami. Why don't we take a break? We'll come back, start digging into some of the stats. We'll start digging into some of the specific players on the roster that we're going to see, how they're performing this year, and then again, we'll take some calls. We'll take a break. We'll be right back. Just a couple quick team statistics here. By the way, if it's doing that laggy thing again, I got some things running that are kind of draining down the computer a little bit, which I think is what causes the Sometimes words get cut off, so sorry if that's kind of annoying. I'll try to make sure that doesn't happen next time. But anyways, yards per game, Arizona Cardinals are 14th on offense. EPA per pass, they dropped down to 15th. So based on EPA, they're the 15th best passing offense. They have a negative .04, so just barely below average is what they would be. EPA per rush, Arizona ranks 10th, plus .04, so just marginally ahead. That is more than the Packers, by the way, which makes sense because, again, it's a production metric, and the Packers' run game hasn't been super productive, either because we get away from it, or we do it at the end of games and there's no yards, or there's big runs that get negated by freaking penalties. If you look at quarterback pressure rate, according to NFL Pro, the Arizona Cardinals quarterback is pressured 27.8% of the time, which is tied for 25th or 26th. So as far as pressures go, he's one of the least pressured quarterbacks in the NFL. And again, we are a team that struggles with that when we don't bring any more than 4. I did see a statistic. I'll see if I can try to track it down. But when the Packers bring 5 or more, I believe they're the number 1 team in pressures, which again, you know, it's hard to quantify how happy or sad I am. You know what I mean? Like, there's a part of me that says, listen, I know bringing 4 against 5 offensive linemen and a tight end and a running back chipping and all that, it's not an easy task. I get it, but you cannot be terrible at it. On the other hand, again, when we try to dial up pressure, it gets home. So we've got a defensive coordinator in Hafley that does a really good job of identifying the moments and also putting guys in a position to succeed. Again, I think the timing is fantastic. I remember watching Joe Barry when he would try to bring extra, because I always wanted that. Like, send a linebacker, send somebody. And there was nothing creative about it. They just ran forward into a pile along with everybody else. It's like, well, that was stupid. You watch some of these blitzes, it's all about timing. This guy goes here, 1,000, 2,000. Okay, now I go, and I go this way, and there's a gap there, and it's very well orchestrated. Anyways, on the defensive side of thing, the Arizona Cardinals give up 360.6 yards per game. That is the 8th worst, or the 8th most yards. Interestingly enough, the Colts, 419, give up the most. So we've seen teams like this. In fact, the Philadelphia Eagles also. Most of the teams we've played are some of the worst defenses in terms of giving up yards. EPA per play overall, they are the 7th worst team, or 7th worst defense based on EPA per play. Again, .04. The worst being the LA Rams, which makes things sad. Like, we're going to crush them. It's like, yeah, the Eagles and the Rams are worse, though. It's like, oh, damn it. We struggled with those guys a little bit. EPA per pass, they rank 8th, which means they're the 8th worst. EPA per rush, they rank 8th. So 8th worst pass defense and rush defense. Have we seen anybody with a worse run defense? Yes, Eagles and Rams. The biggest benefit that I think that we might see this week, if I could pick one thing that makes me feel good, I love that we're at home and all that stuff. There has been a barrage of pressure. The last several weeks, it's been, Minnesota Vikings have one of the highest blitz rates, and they just brought a lot of pressure. And the Rams, as bad as they are, for some reason, they can generate a massive amount of pressure. And for some reason, they blitzed a ton. The Arizona Cardinals have a quarterback pressure rate, their defense does, of 25.3%. That is the 2nd worst in the NFL. The Atlanta Falcons are the only other team that is worse. The Cardinals are right there with them. They're ranked 3rd, but we didn't see that with Jordan. And obviously helped us in the situation with Malik. But I'm hopeful that Jordan Love, I feel like I said Aaron Rodgers recently for some reason. If I did, I apologize. I'm a little spaced out. Jordan Love, in a clean pocket, having had several weeks now to kind of get back in the groove of things, I'm just saying it would be kind of cool if he could just have a good 4 quarters. And if he can do that, I really think we win the game. I understand that there's potential for problems on defense. I don't care. Jordan Love playing a good game, comfortably in a clean pocket, distributing the ball, low pressure, not down by a bunch, which means there's a low chance he's going to do something crazy. Not no chance, but a lower chance. I'm just, really hopeful. All right. Let us kick it over to the players now. Kyler Murray, I mentioned, is grading out relatively well. The negative thing about it, though, is that his grade is really being carried by that LA game where they just went nuts, and Kyler Murray in particular is one of those things like, dude, because I've even said it, like, Kyler's weird. I've never really been a huge fan of Kyler. It's been very hit or miss. He's obviously got a ton of injury problems as a smaller guy. There's also issues with like the Call of Duty thing, which I saw recently. I don't know if it's true or not, but he got like a deal from Call of Duty, which is hilarious. He's like sponsored by them just because of just for the sake of the memes, I guess. But anyways, his grade is being carried by the LA game where he had a 97 PFF grade and 96 passing grade. And the week before it was like a 76. So it's like, this is just a fantastic start. But then it was 58, 59, 73. So he's had one good game the last 3 weeks, and it wasn't spectacular. It was just pretty good, and it was against a division rival. By the way, LA is too. So if you look at the games that he played, where it wasn't against a common opponent, his grades are 75, 58, 59. It is what it is. He would also be 3 touchdowns and 1 interception compared to 7 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, which is what he does have. It would be 4 touchdowns, 1 interception in the common opponent's games. If you look at his big-time throw rate, it's through the roof, 7.6%, very high. But again, that's largely because of week 2, where he had 6 big-time throws in that game, 27.3%, which is just absolutely insane. If you were to remove that anomaly, he would be sitting at 5 big-time throws and 4 turnover-worthy plays as compared to 11 and 4 where he is right now. So, is Kyler good? Yeah. Is Kyler dangerous? Yeah. Do I think he's really as good as many people? This happened last time we played them. I remember telling people, like, he is terrible with his legs. He has been a liability with his legs. Guys, you're out of your mind. Like, you don't know what you're talking about. This guy's dangerous. It's like last year he was. This year, he's not. Like, it's just not working. He's trying to be a better passer, and the passing was working. The running was terrible, and he didn't do jack with his legs against us. Doesn't mean there isn't some potential for it, but it's, again, being fast and being good with your legs are 2 different things. So the first 2 weeks, his rushing grade was 77 and 79. He ran for 5 attempts, 57 yards, and a fumble in week 1. 5 attempts, 59 yards in week 2. After that, he had 5 attempts, 45 yards, 61 grade, 1 attempt for 3 yards, 58, and then 7 attempts for 83 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 fumble, 60 grade. So 60, 58, 60 the last 3 weeks. He hasn't graded out anything other than just kind of end. And again, you look at it and say, well, how is that possible? You get 7 carries for 83 yards and a touchdown. Nobody else is doing that. That's crazy numbers. The problem is, well, several-fold. Number one, there's fumbles included. You're also got a lot of problems with sacks being a bigger issue. These are the types of guys who turn a 2-yard sack into a 19-yard sack. Sometimes they get away from sacks. Sometimes they dance a little bit too much instead of throwing, and they end up causing more problems. With that said, he has been fantastic under pressure. He actually grades higher overall, but it's largely because of the rushing. He has a 90 rushing grade when under pressure. Why? Because that's when he takes off and runs. So pressure has not been super effective against Kyler, and there hasn't been a ton of pressure against Kyler, and maybe that's why. Teams are scared. It's kind of like, when you're playing football with your buddies in the backyard, and you're the guy that's kind of slow, and the quarterback is like a really fast guy, and so you're doing like the 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3, whatever, and you get there and then you don't rush, because it's like if I rush, he's just going to run and get a touchdown, so I'm just not going to rush. So that's maybe the plan here. We'll work on having our 4 guys slowly compress the pocket. Hopefully he'll feel pressured to throw the ball, but we got to focus more on coverage. That's my thought. Or Hafley's going to say screw it and send some boys. Hopefully send some of the quicker guys. I mean, Edgerrin looks quick. Send some of the safeties that are quick. I'm not saying Edgerrin can beat him in a foot race, but if you catch him off guard, just kind of come out of nowhere, you can get him. But he is 21 of 34, 218 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions under pressure. That's passing. So, Kyler's Kyler, man. He has the potential to be really dangerous, but it just doesn't materialize all the time. And I think the inconsistencies are what fans struggle with. It's kind of like there's one picture of a thing, and that's just what they are always. Kyler is really dangerous. Look at what he did here. Kyler's dangerous because he's really fast and he can outrun people. It's like, that's true, but the problem is it does not manifest most of the time. So it can happen and it can hurt you, but Kyler is not good at being great all the time, if that makes sense. All right, got to move kind of quickly here. Receivers, Marvin Harrison is the high. Let's go by targets. It's still Marvin Harrison. He's the most targeted player. He has 34 targets, only 17 receptions, which is 50%, 279 yards, 4 touchdowns, 77 receiving grade. Their next most targeted player is tight end Trey McBride. So you got to watch out for the tight end. He's a huge part of the offense, and that's in only 4 games. So if you extract that out, McBride is probably the number 1 receiver, likely, maybe. I don't know. After that, wide receiver Michael Wilson, 26 targets, 19 receptions, 216 yards and a touchdown. He has a 69 grade. And then probably the last one that we need to really talk about, Greg Dortch, 16 receptions, 138 yards, 0 touchdowns. There are no other wide receivers. So there's 3 wide receivers this entire season that have been targeted, and that's it. That's kind of shocking. James Conner would be the next one down. He's only been targeted 9 times in 5 games, so we're talking maybe 2 targets a game. Not a huge part of what he does. And then another tight end, or another 2 tight ends, one of them being rookie Tip Riemann, 2 more running backs, one of them being rookie Trey Benson. But again, nothing really big. And as far as the receiving grades go, again, Michael Wilson is about a 70, Trey McBride is 73, Marvin Harrison 77. I think the positive thing for them about Marvin Harrison is that he's consistent. He had a bad week 1. He compensated by a really good week 2, and then he's just been 70, 70, 70. So he's been solid since his week 1 kind of bump in the road, I guess. At running back, James Conner is the man. 82 attempts, 374 yards, 4.6 yards per attempt, 3 touchdowns, 1 fumble. Interestingly enough, though, Trey Benson, who's a rookie, played 4 games. He is up to 25 attempts. So let me see what that equates to. Yeah, it's still only 31, but he is the number 2 running back. He is the rotational guy. He's getting a little over a third of the running back snaps for the offense. It kind of depends game to game. Sometimes it's higher, sometimes it's lower, but it's what you would roughly expect. He has no touchdowns and 1 fumble, which is a little bit rough, which is why his grades are quite a bit lower. Kyler Murray obviously is a massive component in the rushing game. He has 23 attempts, which is slightly below Benson, but 10.7 yards per attempt is pretty dangerous, 247 yards. The problem is the fumbles. He has 1 touchdown and 2 fumbles. Not sure anybody else is really super worth talking about. Then finally for the offense, they got left tackle Paris Johnson. He's a pretty solid football player. 83 overall, 81 run blocking, 76 pass blocking. Paris Johnson, wasn't he kind of bad before? Yeah, he had a rough rookie year. It wasn't great. He's really kind of breaking out this year. It's been a little up and down, but relatively solid all year. So he's taken a big step. He was a number 6 overall. Things are going well there. At left guard, they've got Evan Brown. 68 pass blocking, 57 run blocking. So it's not the greatest, but it's certainly consistent enough. And considering how good or how terrible the offensive lines have been that we've been unable to affect, we can call him one of the better ones. Hjalte Froholt, which is one of my favorite names in all of football. I love saying it. As soon as I learned how to say it, I was like, yes, I want to say that every day. Hjalte Froholt. He was from Arkansas Razorbacks, got picked up by the Patriots in 2019, spent the last 2 years in Arizona. Pretty consistent in that he's like a 60-ish, high 60s run blocker and I guess you can call it 60s pass blocker. So far, though, is run blocking 75, pass blocking 68, so he's off to a decent start. Again, is he a powerhouse? No. If we had elite interior talent, could they destroy this guy? Absolutely. Can the guys that have been playing recently do anything? No. I don't think so. Then there is Will Hernandez. But, as we talked about, Will Hernandez is being placed on IR. That's a big deal. Might have even mentioned this on the podcast already, but 74 pass blocking, 66 run blocking is a solid. I mean, this offensive line has taken some strides. I know they were struggling for a long time. This is a decent enough offensive line. But Tristan Colin, whatever, 29 pass blocking grade. Now, is that going to stay, or is that just because of the small sample size? Probably the small sample size, but I think it's a big hit at right guard. And then at right tackle, Kelvin Beachum. There has been some other guys that have come in for various reasons, injuries, whatever. He's played 4 games, 60 pass blocking, 60 run blocking. It is what it is. There's actually been 4 guys that have been in there. There are some offensive line injuries. I don't know the status outside of Hernandez, who's not playing. But Kelvin Beachum didn't practice on Wednesday, was limited on Thursday with a hamstring injury. Evan Brown, the center, has been limited all week with a hamstring injury. Guard Isaiah Adams, if he ends up playing for whatever reason, he's a backup. He has a thumb injury. Christian Jones has an ankle injury. He was full participant. And that's it. But the offensive line is pretty banged up. Hopefully we can use that to our advantage. Boy, let's take a break now. We'll come back. I don't know if we'll be able to get to a ton of calls, if any, but we'll do what we can here. We'll take a break. We'll look at defense. We'll be right back. All righty. Defense will do as we do, interior to exterior. First of all, let's go through the injuries because I'm going to forget as we go through. Defensive tackle Bilal Nichols has a finger injury. He's limited on Thursday. Linebacker Jesse Luketa, shoulder injury, limited on Thursday. Cornerback Garrett Williams has a groin injury. He's been limited all week. Defensive lineman Darius Robinson, calf injury, did not participate on Thursday, which is the most recent day for me. So there you go. All right. With that in mind, interior, going from most snaps to least, so the top to bottom. Roy Lopez, I don't even know who that is apparently their number 1 defensive tackle. Remember, this is their biggest issue. Roy Lopez has always been terrible. He was a 6th-round pick for Houston, lasted 2 years. Arizona picked him up for whatever reason. His tackling grades for 4 years, 41, 39, 36, 34. Like, he started at a 41 and gets worse every year. He is the worst tackling defensive tackle in the history of the universe. His run defense grade is a 47. Pass rush is a 70, which is way out of character. I think it's, it's being carried by week 1 against Buffalo. He had a 90, week 2, and then he had a 76. Then it was 53, 53, 65. So I think he's kind of coming back down to earth. It's 7 pressures on 75 attempts. It's really nothing that spectacular. And again, kind of fluky. Then after that, they have injured Bilal Nichols as their number 2 guy. Again, he's probably fine. It's just a finger injury. But Bilal Nichols is number 2. He has a 45 PFF grade, 44 run defense grade, 41 tackling grade, 54 pass rush, 3 pressures on 74 attempts. Holy crap. That's bad. Then they have LJ Collier. I thought he was more of an edge guy. I think he is. But it says defensive interior, so we'll go with it. Must be a 3-4 team, I guess. Anyways, he has a 45 grade, 39 run defense, 71 tackling, 57 pass rush, 10 pressures and 81 attempts, which is actually decent. And then finally, Dante Stills. They have a pretty heavy rotation. 54 grades, 60 run defense, 29 tackling, 48 pass rush, 3 pressures, 66 attempts. It's a bad defensive line. It's real bad. You got one guy that had a decent pressure rate, but still graded out terribly. But it's not good. Off the edge, they really have 2 main guys, Zaven Collins and Dennis Gardeck. And then, so that's 168 and 160 as far as snaps. Then there's a pretty big drop. Julian Okwara, just 86. And then Xavier Thomas, 59. So really not a ton. Zaven Collins, I remember talking about him as a possible Packer for a long time, getting real excited about that guy. Started off pretty slow. He's off to a decent start, very inconsistent, but he's got a 78 grade, 83 run defense, 74 tackling, 56 pass rush, 82 coverage. So there's that. But he has 6 pressures and a sack on 66 attempts. So, I mean, really, he's more of a run defender right now than a pass rusher, which is probably not the best, but at least it's something. Dennis Gardeck has a 69 grade, 61 run defense, 69 pass rush, 8 pressures, 73 attempts, and 3 sacks. He's been he's been with Arizona for a long time. Very consistently average since forever. 60, 60, 60, 60, 60, 60, 60 for him. So he's whatever. Julian Aquara has a 55 grade, 75 run defense, 52 pass rush. He has 1 pressure this year on 31 attempts. That's crazy. And then Xavier Thomas, 37 grade, 47 run defense, 52 pass rush, 2 pressures, 31 attempts. So the entire defensive front, we'll call it, defensive interior and the edge rushers, really, it's either like or geez, that's bad. At linebacker, they really just have 2. There is Chris Barnes, but he's not utilized enough to really care that much about. Kaiser White, it's a 4th-round pick in 2018. He's never been great, but he's really bottoming out this year. We'll see if he kind of bounces back. But he has a 41 PFF grade, 71 run defense. So the run defense seems to be there. Although, the EPA per rush doesn't really agree. 58 tackling grade, which may be contributing to that. 45 pass rush, 28 coverage. So he's pure run defense. Nothing else is working. That's terrible. He has 20 targets, 17 receptions for 241 yards. He does have 1 interception, but that's rough. 85% reception rate, 240 yards given up, no touchdowns. But yeah, people are picking on him, and I wouldn't be surprised if we try to see if we can get a Tucker Kraft, Kaiser White matchup. Then they have Mac Wilson. It's so funny seeing these names. Just like I remember them from college, Alabama guy. I think he ended up falling. He was kind of a bigger guy that kind of fell. But anyways, he started off real rough. He's very inconsistent. 40-40, 70-40, 80-60. That's his career. So Cleveland, New England, and then Arizona. So far this year, 67 grade, largely carried by week 1. He kind of broke out. Week 1, a lot of guys stashed some grades, or week 2 for Kyler. But 67, 75 run defense, 52 tackling, 55 pass rush, 60 coverage. I guess you can put him in the meh column. But again, he had basically a 90 grade week 1. So even with that, he's kind of sitting in the category. At corner, their trio is Sean Murphy-Bunting, who we mentioned. That was one of their free agent acquisitions they paid a bunch to. He is their number 1 corner. They have Starling Thomas V. Don't remember that name at all. And Garrett Williams. So Sean Murphy-Bunting, he's been around. He was with Tampa first as a 2nd-round pick. Then he went to Tennessee for a year, and then now he's in Arizona. He hasn't had a single good game this year. 54 overall grade. 33 tackling grade, a 48.7 coverage grade. That's what you go out and spend money on. That's crazy. He has 13 receptions on 17 targets for 148 yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 1 pass breakup, 102.1 passer rating, and 2 penalties. Nothing massive either direction, but he just gives up a lot of receptions. Then you got good old Starling Thomas, who I've never heard of before. He got picked up apparently as a free agent, undrafted free agent by the Lions, dropped immediately. Arizona picked him up. He currently has a 57 grade, a 55 coverage grade. He's given up 10 receptions for 149 yards and 2 touchdowns, 120.9 passer rating when targeted. That is the boundary corner number 2. And then the guy in the slot, safety, strong safety / slot, Garrett Williams. Garrett Williams was a 3rd-round, second year. He is a second-year player for Arizona. Currently has a 67 grade, 40 run defense, 28 tackling. So if we can get some yards after the catch, I feel like this is a good opportunity to get Wicks going. He's a kind of a bull, get the tight ends, you know what I mean? Coverage, though, 75. It's been pretty decent. It's really just one really good game against Washington, and he was listed as a strong safety in that game, so he played more safety and a lot more snaps. So I think he's just a better safety than a slot guy would be my guess. But only given up 8 receptions for 66 yards, and he has a pick. So seems like he's doing pretty well. Grades aren't great, especially the tackling, but it is what it is, man. But the main safeties are Jalen Thompson and Budda Baker. Jalen Thompson listed as a strong safety. Budda largely strong, but a little bit free, whatever. Jalen Thompson What the heck? Oh, that's right. Jalen Thompson. He was the guy in the supplemental draft, I think. That's why he's not, there's no round or whatever for the draft. I knew his name sounded familiar. I just could not remember. But he currently has a 55 grade, really solid as far as run defense and tackling. 74 and 84 for tackling. Coverage, though, a 47 PFF grade. Super yikes. 13 receptions on 15 attempts for 137 yards and 2 touchdowns. First of all, he's targeted a lot for a safety. Think about Xavier McKinney was targeted, what, 1 time, 2 times, which is pretty common. You know, I think he was targeted 2 times. He had a pick and a pass breakup. So being targeted 15 times through 5 games, I mean, I guess it's 3, but then to have 13 receptions, and again, 137 yards, 2 touchdowns, 144.3 passer rating, not going super great. Budda Baker, similarly, he was a second-round pick from 2017. He's been around the block. He's been with Arizona for a long time. He's consistently been a really good run defender. He has an 81 grade there. That's kind of standard for him. 66 tackling. It's a little bit low, but I think he's had some bad games early. 65 coverage grade, though. He has been targeted 14 times, gave up 12 receptions for 127 yards, almost identical, but not the 2 touchdowns. 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 1 pass breakup, 104.5. So the coverage is not great kind of across the board. Maybe the slot corner is okay, although, again, it doesn't seem like he's the best when he's in the slot. Coverage ain't great. Tackling is terrible aside from the safeties across the board. The pass rush up front, with the exception of like a guy or two, is really not good. There's a reason that this is one of the worst defenses in all of football. Again, put in the caveat that every player is an NFL player. Every one of these guys can have good games, and they all did. If you look at Budda Baker, his grades are 54, 78, 83, 59, 66. All right, 2 barely below average games, 1 barely above average game, and 2 really good games. It's all this stuff for me comes down to like coin flips. Or rolling the dice. It's all percentages. Budda Baker, it's not a matter of how good is Budda Baker. It's a question of how good is Budda Baker and what is the consistency rate. So it's like one of those bell curves, If you look at the election now, they kind of sort it that way, where if you run like 10,000 simulations, these are the range of possibilities. If Budda has a good day and Kyler has a good day and a lot of those guys have a good day, it's a good football team. On average, if you just take everybody at average, it's not a good football team. But that's the thing. Nothing is ever perfectly exactly as it's supposed to be. Even the grades like 73 that Budda Baker has, that's just like when you put it all together. But individually, he's never been that. He's never been this player individually. He doesn't have a single 73 grade. He doesn't have a single 81 run defense grade. Doesn't have a single 66 tackling grade. Pretty close, but not a single 65.4 coverage grade. He's never been that. So this is just kind of give you an overview of what they are in general in a snapshot. But really, it comes down to individual players who have a wide range of talent and a wide range of how bad is bad and how often are they bad. Like really bad players that are consistently bad. That's a good thing because it's very high probability they're going to have a bad day. So, when teams come into Lambeau, it's just a bunch of rolling the dice. That's all it is. Let's see what we get from Jordan. Let's see what we get from Romeo. Let's see what we get from Watson if he plays. Every single player, it's a matter of what are you going to get? And that's going to determine the outcome of the game. So I just don't want it to be too definitive that this is the 27th ranked defense and they're bad all the time. It's like, it's a better situation than going up against the number 1 defense, that's for sure. But it doesn't mean that it isn't full of guys that have the capacity to be good football players on a, given day. Anyways, I promised some calls, so why don't we go ahead and do some calls? Let's do this and do it right. As you all know, new callers do go directly to the front of the line. The phone number is 608-501-0718 if you want to participate. And I did remember Garrett's first call, so that's not gonna trick me. We have the volume up. Everything's all set. Let's see. Garrett, what's going on?
So, took your advice, Ryan, and instead of making calls the day before a game, which usually now gets skipped, I called literally.
Do you agree with me on that? I want to just give you good content, and I feel like it's bad content to play calls that are like, I'm feeling this way about the game, and here's my prediction for the score. And this is after like the game is over. Does anybody want that? I mean, if you guys say like, heck yeah, man, give me those calls, then we'll do it. I don't really care. I just feel like people are going to be like, why am I listening to this? This is stupid.
5 minutes after the game was over, and still somehow got skipped. So I'm going to do what you always say.
How did that happen?
Call back in and try to rehash what we talked about. And I basically called in to say that that was a very ugly win. Man, I'm tired of the penalties. I'm tired of the mistakes. I'm tired of the drop balls. I'm tired of a lot of stuff because this team has so much potential. Before the season started, I was super optimistic because what this team had shown the prior season, how they ended the season. And then they just go and revert right back to how the season started again last year, not looking sharp, not looking like they are practicing anything. It's just mind-numbing to see this team come out so slow, and for Jordan to come out so rusty. It just begs the question: what are they doing in practice?
Yep.
I mean, seriously. I know that you have harped on my opinion of these guys need to play in the preseason, and I'll die on that hill because of one thing. It's reps. And the more reps you get, in my opinion, especially against another team, the more real game scenario reps you get, the better experience you're getting. Whatever they're doing in practice, it is not helping. And these guys sitting,
Well, let me first of all completely agree with you that something is not going well. Look, we treat it as though it's just kind of like this weird thing in the air that forces the Packers to not be good in the first half of the season. It's not. There's something wrong with the way that the team prepares or whatever. It shouldn't take this long. Now, to continue to push back on the preseason thing, again, what are we talking about in terms of percentage? So let's actually look at it. If they play a half of a preseason game, we're talking what, 20 snaps that they play maybe? We'll call it 25. So it's been 5 weeks. I know Jordan's been out, but let's just say, so it's what? Call it, so that'd be 250. So it's 20 divided by 250. It's 0.8%. It's a drop in the bucket. I mean, if you want to say it, at least it's not like I'll take anything, fine. But it is completely useless reps against vanilla defenses, risking injury, and adding like 0.8, so 8% of value. It's just, it's not worth it. I mean, if it takes, and we're not even there yet, right? If it's 9 weeks, we're talking, what, 450 snaps to get to the point where we're like, oh, now we know how to play. I don't really care about adding 20. Yeah, we're at 450, but if we'd have played in the preseason, we'd be at 470. Okay. I mean, add a practice. I don't know. I feel like we're not attacking the core issue. And I know you're not saying that is the core issue, but it's such a non-factor to me, the preseason, compared to the whole thing. If it was like week 1 we're bad and then the rest is fine, which is the way it used to be, like week 1 was terrible and then week 2 is like, all right, we're kind of getting in the groove. We're at week 5. And I don't really have a lot of confidence that week 6 is just going to be like, bam, the Packers are here. If it happens, great, but I don't know. Anyways, the other big thing, CAA, which apparently stands for Creative Artists Agency, has dropped Hassan Reddick. So he apparently during this holdout is just sitting out his refused to report, is collecting lots and lots of fines, and the agency representing him has just completely parted ways. There's an interesting little, I don't know, subtext or whatever you want to call it, where Aaron Rodgers kind of hinted that he thought Hassan Reddick had fired his agent. So I don't know how that plays into this thing as far as maybe he's staying with the agency, but he fired his agent. and they're trying to like find out like who can they attach to him, and they're like, you know what, we're done with this guy, whatever. I don't know. The whole thing's a mess, and it makes me laugh. Anyways, please continue.
In the preseason has just not helped them, in my opinion. Again, I know how much you hate it. Hate it.
I do.
But I'm still going to just go back to it and say, look, every rep counts. These guys do not look good. And it's taking them way too long to get up to snuff. Way too long. Something's got to change. If it's good enough for Kansas City, it's good enough for Green Bay to play in preseason. That's all I'm going to say, Ryan. And I will not ever mention it again. I promise you. So let's just look forward to the Cardinals. Let's hope we can crunch that midget in the get some sacks in the backfield and just stop Murray from throwing the ball. Go for number 6. Next, go for number 6. I'm out.
Oh, making me choke over here. Well, is it good for Kansas City? I don't know. Like, how did it help Kansas City? They got off to a slow start. Maybe that's why they're back on track, because they played those couple snaps in the preseason. Whatever. You can have it. I'm going to stay in my camp as far as preseason. I think there's a much larger issue here, and I know some people can be like, "You guys are being ridiculous." Like week 1 was in Brazil, and it was all slippery, and then we lost Jordan, and then he was injured, and like you need to calm down. It's very similar to my critique of who the heck was it? I can't remember now. Was it Dylan? I don't think so, but Dylan works. It's not a matter. Oh, Quay. Quay is who it was. I understand there's excuses, and I understand it's a new defense, blah, 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 blah. The problem is there's a history here. And that's where, when I look at the history and I look at it, I see the change as an opportunity to not be as bad as you are. And then you don't change, and you're exactly the same guy. Again, that's a separate issue. Maybe he becomes a great player. I don't know. They got to figure it out. That's a separate issue. But it's similar here, where, and Garrett's right, yes, there are excuses, and maybe everything is fixed, and maybe all the problems of the past are gone, and it's just those excuses that are causing it this time, and it's a coincidence that it looks exactly like the last several years. But this is year 3 now of the team getting off to slow starts, which means, and again, it's a preparedness issue, which if you say that, it becomes a lot of things. They're not ready at the first half of games. They're not ready in the first half of the season. They're not ready when they travel far away, whether that's Brazil or the West Coast or whatever. They're unprepared. Big playoff games, they're unprepared. This is a serious freaking problem. And again, going back to, 2022 or whatever it was, I remember Matt LaFleur, when I've never been more angry at him ever, when his answer to essentially what the problem is if I knew, we wouldn't be having this problem. Great. So you have no idea what the problem is. You don't even know how to, you look at the kicker issue, right? Well, it's a problem with his plant leg. Great. That's step 1. Now, can you fix it? That's the big hurdle. Identifying it is just step 1. You can't even identify it, and then you're going to mock people as though it's a stupid question. It's not a stupid question. We're making sure that you understand the problem. Like, hey, you know what it is, right? And you're working on it. And Matt LaFleur's like, bro, I have no idea what it is. No idea. Stupid of you to ask me. No idea. Because it's not true. If I knew what it was, we wouldn't be having this problem. That's not true. Maybe you know what it is and it's just not getting fixed. That's a very real possibility. But you don't even know. And I have to assume we're in the same boat here. Where Matt LaFleur's like, I don't know. It's just weird. It's one of those things, I guess. And I don't have that attitude. Anyways, we got to keep this train a-rolling here. Let's do one more. Last one from Garrett.
So hopefully this call gets played after my last call. But I wanted to joke a little bit about something that's funny but not funny.
All right.
And that is the fact that I know exactly what Halloween costume Rayshawn, Lucas Van Ness, and Kenny Clark need to wear. They need to go out and get milk cartons. And on the side, they can say, defensive line, missing since preseason.
When you're right, you're right. When you're right, you're right. Well, we're going to end it with that one. Garrett, thank you very much. was hoping to get through some more calls, but things take time. We will hopefully get some Packernet After Dark tomorrow, as long as we can get the other podcasts going and whatnot. But you guys have a good rest of your night. I'm tired. I got to go to bed. Have a good one.